The battle over his use of a sweeping wartime law continues. Plus, wildfires in the Carolinas burn more than 6,000 acres.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. President Trump announced today the U.S. will impose a 25% tariff on any country that buys oil and gas from Venezuela. The administration says the Venezuelan government is sending gang members into the U.S. It is the basis for the president's decision to declare some Venezuelan migrants enemy combatants and deporting them without due process. CBS's Erica Brown is at the White House with more on the administration's efforts to carry out its mass deportation plan.
The Trump administration says it's extraditing 3 Venezuelan migrants with alleged ties to the Tren de Aragua gang who were detained as part of the Alien Enemies Act.
We're getting the bad ones out first, and we're taking them out. And there's some really bad ones, murderers.
The administration is appealing a judge's temporary block of the president's use of the Alien Enemies Act, which allows for quick deportations without due process.
We're now not even just getting the worst of the worst out. We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities.
Sunday night, the administration carried out more deportations directly to Venezuela without invoking the Wartime Act after reaching a deal with that country. During a cabinet meeting Monday, President Trump praised efforts to secure the southern border and to slash the size of the government.
Our country was riddled with fat, like no country probably anywhere in the world, and we're getting rid of the fat.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced plans to do away with the agency tasked with helping people after a natural disaster strikes.
We're going to eliminate FEMA, so we've got a lot to do.
The Trump administration is also appealing a court order to rehire more than 16,000 federal workers laid off during their probationary period, asking the Supreme Court to step in. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
U.S. District Judge William Alsup ordered the terminations at the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Defense, Energy, the Interior, and the Treasury were all improperly laid off and ordered the probationary employees to be rehired. The government argues the plaintiffs do not have legal standing and the judge does not have the authority to order the rehiring. In the apparent breach of U.S. national security, the Atlantic's editor-in-chief says top Trump administration officials accidentally sent him war plans. Jeffrey Goldberg says he was included in a group chat about military strikes in Yemen. He learned about the strikes just a couple of hours before they were carried out on March 15th. A National Security Council spokesperson says the messages in the group chat on Signal, which is an encrypted messaging app, appear to be authentic. The White House plans to nominate Dr. Susan Menarez to lead the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Menarez is currently the acting director of the CDC. Before that, she was deputy director of the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. The announcement comes weeks after the Trump administration withdrew its nomination of Dr. Dave Weldon to lead the CDC. The Department of Homeland Security says Secretary Kristi Noem will visit a mega prison in El Salvador Wednesday. Up to 20,000 people are thought to be housed at the notorious Center for Terrorism Confinement, or CCOT. That includes 261 reported Venezuelan gang members the Trump administration sent to El Salvador last weekend. During her visit, Noem is also expected to meet with El Salvador's president. Today, U.S. negotiators are working on a proposed partial ceasefire in Ukraine. They are meeting with representatives from Russia and Saudi Arabia after holding separate talks with the Ukrainian team yesterday. Each side has accused the other of undermining efforts to reach a pause in the 3-year-old war. Kyiv and Moscow agreed in principle last week, but offered different views of what targets would be off limits to attacks. Egypt has introduced a new proposal to try and get the Gaza ceasefire back on track. In the proposal, Hamas would release 5 living hostages in return for Israel, allowing humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and a weeks-long pause in the fighting. Israel would also release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. A Hamas official said the group had responded positively to the proposal. Today, social media personalities Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan arrived at a police station in Romania. The two are facing charges of human trafficking and forming an organized criminal group to sexually exploit women. Andrew Tate told journalists he and his brother returned to Romania to prove their innocence. The two have now registered with authorities, a formality tied to the investigation that launched in 2022. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says a 21-year-old man from Honduras accused of killing a mother of 5 in an Atlanta suburb was in the U.S. illegally. According to an ICE spokesperson, Hector Sagastume Rivas crossed the U.S. border illegally just over 4 years ago. Customs and Border Protection arrested him initially. An order for him to be removed from the country was issued more than 2 years later in 2023.
Hi, everybody. In the mountains, Chris Bailey from WKYT in for WYMT weather this evening. We are dealing with an absolutely spectacular start to this final week for the month of March. Not going to stay that way long. Let's take you to Pikeville, where it's a gorgeous sky that is out there. The radar picture across all of eastern and southeastern Kentucky, the mountains, we are looking gorgeous right now. You've got all the flowers that are starting to show up a little bit. The blooms, the buds are all out doing their thing right now. That radar picture is dry as a bone. Now that's going to change a little bit. Right now on the radar, nothing across Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky. We're in good shape. Thank you. High pressure across Nashville, Tennessee. To the northwest of us, though, low pressure. It's a little clipper looking low that is going to drop its way on in from northwest to southeast. That arrives as we go into the day on Tuesday. That's going to give us the threat for a couple of chilly showers Tuesday into Wednesday. We're back with that with a 7-day forecast here in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, we appreciate you. Eric's on vacation this week, and Chris is a Magoffin County native, if you didn't know that, just like Jim Caldwell. Well, the Supreme Court has declined an appeal from a group of miners seeking to force federal government action on climate change. The lawsuit was filed by 21 children and teenagers in 2015 and takes aim at the federal government's energy policies. It claims those policies unconstitutionally deprive them of certain fundamental rights. The question before the justices was a procedural issue dealing with whether the group had established standing to sue. Wildfires continue to rage in the Carolinas. More than 6,000 acres have burned as of last night, and there's risk of further damage to areas already ravaged by Hurricane Helene. A dangerous combination of high temperatures, strong winds, and low humidity have helped those flames spread, causing evacuations and a National Guard deployment. Michael Yoshida has a closer look at the efforts to contain the blazes.
Crews battling flames across the Carolinas. Wildfires burning thousands of acres and destroying some homes too.
It was chaos. We was up here trying to put the fire out. We couldn't get it out, so the fire department come. The wind picked up, and after that happened, it was all she wrote.
Thousands ordered to evacuate. These residents scrambling to protect their RVs and equipment.
If it does reach this far, our equipment won't get burned up. Literally, it's just kind of keep everything kind of away from the brush line as best we can.
In South Carolina, the governor declared a state of emergency. The National Guard deploying, dropping water over burned areas as massive plumes of smoke rise from the hills. In both the Carolinas, firefighters must deal with the large number of leaves, trees, and other debris left behind by Hurricane Helene.
I feel bad for all the people that live here with the Helene and this back to back.
Hundreds of personnel, including some from other parts of the country, are working to contain the wildfires. This weekend's weather adding to the challenge.
High elevated winds, higher temperatures, lower relative humidity. So we are seeing all those conditions that's contributing to higher and more intense fire spread.
We're sad that it happens, but we're all glad to be able to just join in together and work as one team.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
This morning, a cold front brought some rainfall and brief relief for those firefighters in the Carolinas. The next round of rainfall is not expected until this weekend. Coming up.